So I've gotten lots of responses to my Surviving White Supremacy series, and some of them were really great. I love the person, I think he calls himself TikTok, who said, "We'll take the test." Each video is kind of like a test to see just where your heart is. And these videos are not political because I see racism on the left as well as the right and in between. It's just the scarring that racism has done to all of us is just horrible and extensive. And racism has also hurt Black people, that we have some work to do within ourselves and our own community to survive where we are. We have spent so many centuries worrying about how America feels about us, how white people feel about us, that we fail to do the work within ourselves. That's what a lot of the video is. It's about we survive white supremacy by focusing on ourselves and pursuing authentic relationship. Now, some of the comments have been some things like, well, don't judge people by, the color of the skin, but by the content of their character. Again, misusing Martin Luther King. So a lot of times, white people will quote Martin Luther King. And it really is very much a slave master mentality, the way they like to use Black people to do their work. Martin Luther King, when he gave that speech, was in the middle of violence and racism going on in America, lynchings and Jim Crow. So he wasn't giving that speech necessarily to Black people. And so when you as a white person say that to a Black person who's expressing, hey, this is racism I've gone through, and you misuse Martin Luther King's speech as a way to keep you from doing the work that you may need to do inside. It's kind of like, a lot of times white people like to say, they founded America, they built America, but they actually a lot of times were sitting down while Black people were building America, physically building the White House, the Capitol, the streets, all of the different buildings and monuments in Washington, D.C., they were built by Black people. It's a really great book called Never Caught. It's about the one slave of George Washington that escaped him. And she talks about in her book how there were Black people with George Washington as he prepared to do whatever work he was doing towards the founding of America. They were driving him there, helping him get dressed, standing with him while he did that. And she talks about but people don't talk about that. And so when you as a white person hear a Black person talk about their racist experience, and talk about the process they're trying to go through to still thrive in this country where they still have to deal with racism, and your response is you're the problem, or your response is quoting Martin Luther King as if you have the authority to do so, reveals that you are still in a slave master mentality of, I don't want to do the work. I want you to do the work. I want you to do the work of forgiving and not judging me. I don't want to change. I don't want to do some soul searching. I want you to do the work because I'm so used to Black people doing the work for me. But I'm here to tell you that slavery is over and we don't have to do the work. The only thing we have to do is heal ourselves, love our communities. And I do believe we as Black people have to pursue agape love, unconditional love. And I love the difference between just love and agape. Agape is acknowledging that someone or a group of people, yes, they have done something to hurt you and they continue to do this thing that hurts you, but you are still to love as Christ loved us. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. I love using the word agape love because it allows me to speak the truth in love. And the truth is, we still endure racism. And we still have to deal with white people that don't want to do the work to heal our country. And we still have to deal with white people wanting to do that instead of joining with us into bringing healing. We've always tried to do the work. We've tried to have the good attitude. We've tried to obey the rules. We've tried to do things so we don't lose our job, so we were accepted, so we don't get in trouble, so we're not blacklisted. We're always adjusting. Du Bois says we're always in this double consciousness of holding on to our hurt, dealing with what we're going through, but on the outside acting like we're this good Negro. And so we always do the work. It's time for you to do the work. And one way of doing that is very simple. It's just pursuing authentic relationship. Not relationship that is rooted in you thinking you're superior to me or that you have the authority to tell me that I need to do the work. It's authentic relationship is recognizing that we are all, myself included, flawed human beings, and that we recognize a history here in America that can only be fixed by us seeing it in a space of truth and then pursuing authentic relationship. The best way I can describe it is I have a very dear friend. She's Flowers and Chicks on here. And we lived in the same neighborhood. She sadly moved away from me. I'm Black, she's white. And we developed, our families developed this, I believe, a really authentic relationship. And it wasn't based on me talking about racism or her talking about racism. We just visit each other's houses, check in with one another. Our kids play together. Our kids spend the night at each other's houses. And we are in each other's spaces and just loving one another. See, sometimes we think building an authentic relationship is sitting down and having this long, drawn-out conversation about all of the racism that we've gone through and white people saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. That's not what I'm talking about. And if you're following me and you're thinking that's what I mean, that's not what I'm saying. I don't even think we can have a healthy racial relationships until we just see if we like one another. Do we just pursue authentic relationship? And some people may say, well, how can you pursue authentic relationship if you haven't talked about racism? The hurt is so deep. We just got to get to a space where we can just be in each other's presence. You're talking about don't judge by the skin. So much hurt has happened between us. I don't even think that's possible. And you know I'm right. We have to build trust. And we can only do that by just seeing, can we even just connect on some level? And then I think when we've had that type of relationship, then we can be able to have meaningful conversations about race. All of my videos about surviving white supremacy involve two things. Number one, all of us working on ourselves. Black people doing the work, white people doing the work. And number two, striving to have authentic relationship that's not superficial, that's not tokenism, that's genuine. I want to be your friend and I want to get to know you and I want to build trust with you. So if you have watched those videos and you stopped watching them and just automatically decided to tell me what Martin Luther King said, you've already shown me that you're still in a white supremacist mentality because you think you have the authority to tell me what I need to do. And you don't. You have work to do, just as I have work to do. Then as we work on ourselves, we come together to try to build authentic friendship, civic friendship. As we build those meaningful relationships, then we can have these conversations about race and racism. But we can only do that one relationship at a time. The scarring is too deep to just forgive. The scarring is too deep for you just to say you need to forgive. I'm going to tell you one last story. My son, not too long ago, went through a situation where he was playing with a friend, a non-black friend, who was saying the N-word, calling black people monkeys. It was really hurtful. He was putting in a chat with him and all of his friends. And we talked to the parents, and the mom says to me, your son needs to forgive. And I had to stand up for my son. I said, no, your son needs to learn not to needs to learn to stop using that word. I said, my people have spent centuries trying to do the work of making it in this country. And you are not allowed to tell my son he needs to forgive when your son called us the N-word and black monkeys. Your son needs to do the work. And she was like, oh my goodness, you're so right. You're right. And so when white people jump right into what black people need to do, that is the slave master mentality. That's that mentality of, I don't want to do the work. I need somebody else to do the work. So if you just forgive me and stop judging me, then I don't have to do anything. And so for us all to be delivered from that, black people need to get to a place of realizing you don't owe anyone anything. You and your ancestors have done enough work. You need to heal. You need to love yourself. You need to love your community. You need to strengthen yourself and your communities. Realize that you are fearfully and wonderfully made by God. White people need to do the work of rooting out racism from the deep recesses of their heart and their soul. And then together we all need to pursue authentic friendship where we can get to a place of having those healing conversations. I hope someone heard what I said.